Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the Bald Eagle Podcast. I am Shawn Cressman. I am the Bald Eagle. Okay, it is Wednesday, August 17th. We're going to talk about the Eagles preseason game. We're going to talk about some news, some trades, right? But before we do that, let's talk about what the Bald Eagle Podcast is specifically. Okay, so the Bald Eagle Podcast is a 100% Philadelphia Eagles podcast. So that's all we talk about is the Eagles. Now, we'll talk about other things that aren't specific to the Eagles, but we'll only talk about those because they impact the Eagles. So sometimes we'll mention some things in reference to our NFC East rivals, but that's about it. Okay. Now, 100% Eagles podcast. Now, I'm part of the Philly Sports Alliance. Philly Sports Alliance has a sponsor. Our sponsor is La Terrain Watches. Go to La Terrain Watches, check out all their jewelry, watches, other items. Very nice looking watches at decent prices as well. And in fact, you can lower those prices by putting in a PSA in the coupon code, and you'll get a discount. So check that out. Now, the Bald Eagle Podcast, we have 3 rules. Very important rules, very important to me. The first rule, and is the most important rule, there's no politics. So you don't have to worry about hearing anything about the right, the left, the center, independents, libertarians, none of that shit. We don't talk about any of that. And I purposely don't talk about any of that stuff because I want this to be a way for you to avoid all that shit that stresses everybody out. No matter what side you're on, you're pissed. So let's just leave all that shit at the table. Let's just talk about football, right? I also don't talk about personal information. I don't care what the teams do or the players do on their personal time. I don't care. You probably don't care what I do on my personal time. So we don't talk about that at all. And I'm not censored. I've cursed a couple of times already. So I'm not censored. All right. Now, the Bald Eagle Podcast, what is unique about the Bald Eagle Podcast is during the regular season and postseason, you will get the most in-depth play-by-play analysis right here on the Bald Eagle Podcast. You're going to hear every single play. The important plays are the plays that were meaningful. I'll expand on. I'll explain what happened, who did what, and you'll have more in-depth knowledge about how well the players are doing. Jalen Hurts is a specific example. Stats don't tell you the full picture, but listening to the podcast, you'll know exactly what he did right, what he did wrong, and you'll be one of the most informed people out there. And that's part of PSA's slogan, keeping Philly informed. Now, PSA also, Philly Sports Alliance, also partnered with Philly Sports Trips. So all those Eagle fans out there that were thinking about possibly going to a game, go see the Washington Commanders in Washington week 3. There's a bus trip through Philly Sports Trips. If you go to phillysportstrips.com, they're packing a bus, taking a trip to D.C. to watch the Eagles beat the Washington Commanders. Great. I don't know the price off the top of my head. You can find all that stuff on the website, but I know that it isn't just tickets and a ride. It includes food, and there may be some former alumni appearances or somebody special to the Eagles that might appear as well. Now, when you go to phillysportstrips.com and you sign up for this, make sure you put PSA, Philly Sports Alliance, PSA in the how you heard about the trip, and then we'll all get put on the same bus. And we need enough people to fill a full bus because I don't think anybody wants to drive down in a short bus, right? But who knows? Who knows? Okay, let's get to our countdown. Every day we count down, or every week we count down to something. We're getting close to the regular season, but right now we're going to count down to our second preseason game, which is in 4 days. Now, before we have that second preseason game, week 2 of the preseason against Cleveland, tomorrow and Friday, we'll have joint practices with the Browns in Berea, Ohio, where they have their training camp. Then week 2 of preseason kicks in Sunday, August 21st, this Sunday at Cleveland. It's 1 p.m. and that is the only game that we have aired that is aired live on the NFL Network. Then we have week 3 before week 3, I've gotten ahead of myself. August 24th, August 25th. Next, what is that? I guess Wednesday and Thursday, we have a joint practice with the Dolphins in Miami Gardens, Florida, where they have their training camp. And then week 3, Saturday, August 27th, we play the Dolphins at 7 p.m. Now, we have that one game that's on the NFL Network. That's great. That's the game against Cleveland. The first game was, and those other 2 games are also on NBC 10 and 94 WIP for anybody that is local. Then we kick off the regular season. Regular season kicks off officially Thursday, September 8th. Buffalo at the LA Rams, 8:20 p.m. That is the official begin of the regular season. Our week 1 is at Detroit, Sunday, September 11th at 1 p.m. We go to week 2 at home, Monday Night Football, September 19th, 8:30 p.m. against the Minnesota Vikings. Week 3, that's our trip down to Washington, D.C. To beat the Commanders. We're in D.C. That's Sunday, September 25th, and that's at a 1 p.m. game. Week 4, we're back at home against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Doug Peterson returns to the link. That's Sunday, October 2nd, 1 p.m. Week 5 at Arizona, Sunday, October 9th, 4:25 p.m. Week 6, home again against the Cowgirls. Sunday Night Football, October 16th, 8:20 p.m. We have a Week 7 bye. Not a fan. Week 8 at home against Pittsburgh, Sunday, October 30th, 1 p.m. Week 9 at Houston, Thursday Night Football, November 3rd, 8:15 p.m. Week 10 at home against the Commanders. So Carson Wentz, if healthy, will return to the link. Monday Night Football, November 14th, 8:15 p.m. Week 11 at Indianapolis, Sunday, November 20th, 1 p.m. Week 12 at home against Green Bay, Sunday Night Football, November 27th, 8:20 p.m. Week 13 at home against the Titans, Sunday, December 4th, 1 p.m. Week 14 at the Giants, Sunday, December 11th, 1 p.m. Week 15 at Chicago, Sunday, December 18th, 1 p.m. Week 16 at the Cowgirls, Saturday, December 24th, Christmas Eve. Christmas come early if we beat them, when we beat them. That's a 4:25 p.m. Start time. Week 17 at home against the Saints, Sunday, January 1st, 1 p.m. And we end the season, Week 18, at home against the Giants, Saturday, January 7th, or Sunday, January 8th, time to be determined. So there's our schedule. It's the 3rd year in a row that we have started the season away. What's up, Coach Koosh? How you doing, man? And by the way, if you're listening and or watching, by all means, wherever you're watching or listening, comment, ask questions. We'll have some interactive chat if you do that. So it's the 3rd year in a row we've begun the season in an away game. That's the longest streak since 2011, 2002 through 2013. We don't have any back-to-back away games until week 13, which I think is great. We close the season out with 2 home games. Gives us an opportunity to catch up if we need to, and one is against a division rival, the Giants. We have the earliest bye week we've had since 2016. In 2016, our bye week was week 4, which is extremely early. Thank goodness it's not that early. And while we do have the earliest bye week in the NFC East, it's not by a significant amount. The Cowgirls and the Giants bye week is 9, so 2 weeks later. Washington has the best bye week. They're week 14. That's I'm envious of that. And I think you heard me when I said, hopefully you heard me when I said Thursday Night Football, Monday Night Football. We have a lot of primetime games. In fact, we are one of 13 teams that has the most in the NFL, which is 5. That's the most we've had since 2018. Now, throughout the decade, right? The century, since 2000, for the 21st century, we have been in the second most primetime games in the NFL with 94. Unfortunately, that is second to the Cowgirls. They are number 1. They've had 100. And we've played the Cowgirls in primetime every season since 2007. The only exception was 2014. It wasn't officially a primetime game, but it was nationally televised, which is what's important. And it was a Thanksgiving game. And then lastly, strength of schedule. The NFC East has the 4 easiest schedules that is determined by your opponent's previous year winning percentage. We have the third easiest, the Eagles, at 0.464. The Cowgirls in Washington are tied for the easiest at 0.462, and the Giants rounded out the fourth easiest at 0.465. If you were interested, the LA Rams have the hardest at 0.567. And then the season culminates in Glendale, Arizona at State Farm Stadium, Sunday, February 12th, 2023, Super Bowl 57. And I'm praying that the Eagles are there. Okay, let's recap our draft. And you might say to yourself, Bald Eagle, why do you keep telling me the schedule? Why do you keep telling me the draft picks? I'll tell you why. I have a horrible memory. And I would assume that there are people out there like me as well that have a horrible memory. So I repeat all of our games. I repeat all of our draft picks. Now, the undrafted rookie signings has been dwindling over time as we cut them or release them. But we're going to go over that as well. Now, and here's the other reason why. Not only will it help your memory, it helps mine. But let's say you're watching a game and you hear a name. You say, oh, wait a minute. That's one of our draft picks. That was a good draft pick. And now you're a little bit more knowledgeable, right? And that's the whole point of this podcast, is for me to talk about football and for you to get a little bit out of it too, right? So let's recap our draft. First round, 13th overall, defensive tackle, monster of a man, Jordan Davis from Georgia. Not only is he a monster, he's a fast monster. I think his 40 was 4.78. Faster than Dak Prescott, faster than the Giants quarterback. I can't think. I told you my memory's horrible. Daniel, and faster than Carson, slightly slower than Carson Wentz. But that was before Carson Wentz had his surgery, so I'm sure he's not running a 4.7 flat anymore, or whatever he ran in the combine. We traded the 18th and 101st overall picks to get A.J. Brown from Tennessee. Huge acquisition, probably one of the better ones we've had in a while. He's a big physical veteran wide receiver, which I thought we needed last year, but we didn't get. Daniel Jones. Thank you, Monkeys Forever on Instagram. Daniel Jones. Great acquisition. And you're going to find, no matter what his numbers are, well, I wouldn't say no matter, right? But even if his numbers aren't as good as you think they should be, he's impacting everything else. And I'll explain why. He did it already in the preseason game, even though he didn't have any receptions. Second round, 51st overall, center Cam Jurgens from Nebraska. He's been making a name for himself. Did very well in the preseason game. Third round, 83rd overall, linebacker Nakobe Dean in Georgia. He had a good preseason game. Sixth round, 181st overall, linebacker Kyron Johnson. Didn't see a lot of him. Don't recall seeing a lot of him for the preseason game. And then sixth round, 198th overall, tight end Grant Calcaterra, SMU. He's been making a name for himself as well. And then we still have a handful of undrafted rookie free agents. Josh Blackwell, corner from Duke. Reed Blankenship, safety from Middle Tennessee State. Kennedy Brooks, running back from Oklahoma. We saw a lot of him in the preseason game. Britton Covey, wide receiver from Utah. He's been returning kicks. Mario Goodrich, corner from Clemson. Josh Jobe, corner from Alabama, who has been climbing the depth chart. Josh Sills, offensive lineman from Oklahoma State. Carson Strong, quarterback from Nevada. Heard good things about him in spring training or spring practices, but have not heard from him since, and he did not play in the preseason game. And then Carrick Wheatfall, wide receiver from Fresno State. Interesting to note, Carrick Wheatfall is the only guy that we signed when we had the rookies come to camp, and we had some tryouts. We had rookies try out as well. He's the only guy that we signed. All right, let's get to some game highlights, right? We played the Jets. We lost technically, but let's be honest, wins and losses do not matter in the preseason. What's most important is how your players play, and you can kind of keep an eye on those names that I just mentioned are rookies. Look at the guys that are on the bubble of making or not making the roster. See how they're playing. I find preseason to be interesting because you can pick out people that you think might be good and don't make the team, and it's nice because if you keep an eye, with the whole NFL, you can find those players on other teams, perhaps making contributions. So let's talk about the game, right? So Jalen Hurts and the first string offense looked pretty good. I don't want to get too excited. I'm not going to say they looked amazing. They drove down the field. Jalen Hurts did not throw any interceptions, didn't even throw an incompletion, but they weren't exactly, I wouldn't say they're perfect. And I'm going to nitpick, right? And perhaps I'm not going to be your favorite podcaster because I'm going to tell you the way I think it is, whether you agree or not, right? So now let's talk about who started. And some of these are obvious. Most of them are obvious. Of course, Jalen Hurts at quarterback, Miles Sanders at running back, A.J. Brown, Quez Watkins, Jalen Reagor at wide receiver. I think, of course, Jalen Reagor would be replaced with Devontae Smith when he's healthy. Dallas Goedert, tight end. Left tackle was Malata. Left guard, Sua Opeta. He replaced the normal left guard. Center Cam Jurgens, of course, because Kelsey's elbow. Right guard, Isaac Sayamalu. And right tackle, Lane Johnson. So, like I mentioned, we had a good start, right? So the first play from scrimmage was a 28-yard pass to Watkins from Hurts. Now, here's where I'm going to get picky. If you watch the film again, even on the broadcast, because I don't have access to the all 22 for the preseason. They don't have those. So I'm going off broadcast views. That's why I don't do the play-by-play because it's not a very good view, and I can't tell what coverages they're in. You don't get a good view of what the blocking is. I can tell you this though. Hurts drops back, has good protection around him, senses some pressure from his left and rolled right. Now, if you watch the tape, he should have climbed the pocket. Now, again, I'm being nitpicky, right? And I'm only being nitpicky on this play because, first of all, it worked out, right? He threw a 28-yard pass to Watkins. Let's not really complain about that. However, rolling right exposes him to injuries, right? Anytime he runs, the likelihood of an injury spikes significantly whenever he runs, right? And let's be honest, a quarterback that is injured isn't very good. Doesn't matter who you have on your team if they're injured. So I want him to stay in the pocket and I want him to run, but only when it's absolutely necessary. And it wasn't on that play. He could have stepped up in the pocket and most likely still found Watkins. Now, the next play, he did stay in the pocket, dumped it. He waited, looked around, didn't see anybody, dumped it off to Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders looked pretty good on the run after the catch. The next play, he threw a quick pass to Jack Stoll. That's what I'm a fan of, is the drop back, dump it off very quickly. Jack Stoll has been another. We started early with a bunch of rookies and players that haven't really shown themselves, proven themselves at tight end, and now we're all of a sudden we have too many because they're all doing relatively well, which will lead to why we traded away one of our wide receiver tight end hybrids. If you haven't heard, we'll go over that. So quick pass to Jack Stoll, 6 yards, really good. Quick pass over the middle to Watkins for 4 yards. The next play, Hurts is in the shotgun. He drops back, he feels pressure, and he runs to his right. Now, I don't know. I couldn't tell because the angle wasn't the best if there was legitimate pressure from his left, and that's why he rolled right. But again, he could have stepped him in the pocket. And here's an exact reason why I want him to stand in the pocket and not roll to the right, because he got his ass hit, right? I know it was an illegal hit. He was out of bounds. It shouldn't have happened, but it did. And what if he would have gotten a concussion, right? What if his cleat would have stuck in the grass, or he would have landed awkwardly on his ankle or his knee? Like, I don't want this shit to happen, so I want him to stay in the pocket. Had he stayed in the pocket, Miles Sanders appeared, again, I don't have the best view, but he appeared to be open on his cut. So if Hurts stays in the pocket and leads Miles Sanders, he doesn't get hit. And perhaps we have an actual gain versus essentially a sack. It technically was called a sack because he didn't make it back to the line of scrimmage before he went out of bounds. So that's why I'm saying climb the pocket, right? You have one of the best, according to PFF, Pro Football Focus, and other analysts, one of the best offensive linemen in the league, right? Use them. Take advantage of that. Trust their blocks. Step up into the pocket. Focus on downfield passes because that's what's going to win the game, right? I don't think that we are going to win games with Hurts running and jumping and doing all kinds of crazy athletic shit. I think we'll win the game when he focuses more on downfield passing and uses his athleticism occasionally, right? Okay, enough of that shit, right? He came back through a nice screen to Sanders for 8 yards. The next play, Hurts misses a wide open A.J. Brown. He does climb the pocket. While he's hesitating to throw to A.J. Brown over the middle, he sees some space and he runs straight ahead and scores a touchdown. Again, right? Again, I'm not going to complain too much because he did score, although there was holding and it got called back. Malata was holding. He did score and he was untouched. However, He had a receiver wide open over the middle. He could have dumped the ball off and avoided any potential injuries, and that's what I would much rather him do. And again, maybe I'm in the minority. You guys comment on what you think, right? Should he be running as much as he does? Should he take off, or if he has an open receiver, should he be throwing it? My vote, 100% should be throwing it. So that didn't count anyway. We got a holding call, so it's 2nd and 12. Hurts in the gun again. He drops back. Good protection, which he had all night. Throws a perfect pass to a wide open Goddard. So Goddard turns around, jumps over a jet, right, for a 22-yard reception and a touchdown. Now, I mentioned earlier A.J. Brown didn't have any receptions in the game. You might be thinking, oh, man, he sucks. No. In fact, if you relook at this play, the reason that Goddard is open because A.J. Brown pulled double coverage. Not only did A.J. Brown's man cover him, but the safety deep covered A.J. Brown as well, and that left left an opening underneath, and Goddard was wide open. So while A.J. Brown may not necessarily have the numbers, who knows what's going to happen. I think he'll have a great season. But if he doesn't have quite the numbers you expected, just realize he's having an impact on the game, even without catching the ball, right? So that was the end of the first drive, the end of Hurts's participation in the game. Hurts did end 6 for 6, 80 yards, 1 touchdown. Technically, the hit out of bounds was a sack. I don't know if I counted. I guess it technically is a sack because they drove him out of bounds before the line of scrimmage. So I guess in theory he got sacked. No picks, no incompletions, and 158.3, which I believe is a perfect quarterback rating. Jason Huntley got the ball a lot. In fact, he started because Miles Sanders did not start. And I don't know what's going on with Boston Scott. I don't know if he's injured. I'll have to look at my injury report here. I don't see him on it, so I don't know what's going on with Boston Scott. But Huntley got the ball a lot, played most of the game, but in my opinion was disappointing. I expected more out of Huntley, especially when we're talking about him going against second and third string defenses. He had 16 rushes for 48 yards, which is only three yards per carry. That's low. Your goal is to be at least, 5 is excellent, right? Anything above 5 is, you're close to the top 10% in the league. He did have 1 touchdown, but he also had 1 lost fumble. He did have 4 receptions on 5 targets, 39 yards for a 9.8 average. Now, he was technically our leading receiver as far as the 4 receptions, and he did do well returning kicks. So then maybe that's where his specialty is, right? What's up, Jock Talk? I'm good. How about you? So maybe his specialty for Huntley is kick returns, right? And he did well with that. He had 2 returns for 61 yards. That's a 30.5 yard average. Hey, what's up, Felicity? Thanks for watching. And he did have one 43-yard kick return. So did a good job returning kicks, decent receiving passes out of the backfield, but did not run as well as I had hoped. Kennedy Brooks, he played some of the game as well. He didn't do very well either, in my opinion. He had 7 rushes for 26 yards, which is a 3.7 average, slightly better than Huntley's 3, but nothing remarkable. And I didn't check Kennedy Brooks. I should have checked his 40, but he doesn't look very fast to me. He's not going to be somebody that's going to outrun or be able to go side to side. He's going to be more of a north and south guy. Happy that JJ is gone. Yeah, I'm glad we got something for him. I would say that. I don't think he was gonna have a meaningful impact on our team this year. So to get somebody that might, I think, is a positive. Let's see. Pascal led the team with 41 receiving yards on 2 receptions. He looked good, I thought, especially coming back from losing 16 pounds due to his food poisoning. Kaiser White had a really good game. Had the first defensive tackle of the game for the Eagles. And then he picked off Zach Wilson on the 5th defensive play for the Eagles. Great jump on the ball, good coverage. I can't remember the last time a linebacker had an interception. So that's amazing. Defensive end Josh Sweat. So the starting lineup officially for the preseason game was Josh Sweat and Hassan Reddick at defensive end, Milton Williams and Fletcher Cox defensive tackles, Kaiser White and T.J. Edwards were our linebackers, Avante Maddox. James Bradbury and Shutdown Slay were corners, and then Marcus Epps and Anthony Harris were safeties. Yeah, Pascal, he looks good. I think he looks good. He's he's been somewhat. I mean, I wouldn't. I'm not going to say he's. I mean, he could be a fourth to Quez Watkins. I mean, him and Quez Watkins might even fight out for that third spot. But I thought he looked really good. Linebacker Nakobe Dean, I said he had a good preseason game. He played 24 snaps, and according to Pro Football Focus, he got a grade of 77.4. And on run defense, he had a grade of 85.4, which is good. I hate to bring it up. I don't know what's going on with him. I heard rumors that perhaps Denver is interested, and I hope they are. But Jalen Reagor, I guess he had an okay game. He had a couple of receptions, but all against second and third string defenses. And he did try and return a punt. And not to my surprise, I wasn't surprised. He tried to run to the side. He doesn't understand the concept of running, north and south when he returns punts. And he went to the right and had 0 yards for no gain, which is typical Jalen Reagor. Every time he returns a punt, tries to outrun the coverage, outrun everybody to the sidelines, and he's just not fast enough. Or they expect it, because I did. Now, again, compare that with Huntley, who returned kicks and went straight up the field, who had 61 return yards and a long of 43. So there's easily Reagor could perhaps be a better returner if he just ran straight ahead instead of always running to the side. All right, game ended 24-21 in favor of the Jets. And I think overall, I think we looked as a team. I thought we looked really good, and we had some. I'm really positive or bullish, you might say, on our depth. All right, yeah, it's called when I played. The coaches would yell at you, north and south. You run the ball north and south, not east and west, right? All right, so let's get to some Eagles news. I mentioned Josh Jobe when we talked about undrafted free agents. He's been moving up the depth chart. And in fact, last practice, which was yesterday, I don't believe they practiced today, he worked with the first team defense when James Bradbury went inside. I'm hearing Kenneth Gainwell struggling a little bit. He had a great first year, I thought. They played him a lot more than I expected. Sanders didn't play as well as I thought. But he's struggling. Apparently he fumbled after a catch on Monday, and yesterday he had 2 drop passes. I agree, Jock Talk. First and second teams looked really good. And like I said, I think I'm really happy about our depth in most positions. Devontae Smith was back to practice on Sunday, and Jalen Hurts apparently went to him early and often, even though he to catch up on all that missed time. Hugh Douglas and Trent Cole will be inducted to the Eagles Hall of Fame later this season, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. Yeah, but it's just so Sanders is hurt. It's a hamstring. I think officially the Eagles listed it leg soreness, so we don't know for sure if it's serious. And it's not. I'll talk about this and when we talk about injuries, but I don't think it's a consistent thing with Sanders. Now I don't know how to prevent hurting your hamstring. I really don't. Maybe you have to warm up more. I really don't know, but let's see. All right, we did make a couple roster moves, and Jock Talk mentioned it earlier with his comment. We traded tight end / wide receiver JJ Arcega-Whiteside to the Seahawks for defensive back Hugo Amadi. For those that are interested, that is not his full first name. I'm not going to try and pronounce it, but if you go online and look him up on say Pro Football Reference, I think it is. They'll give you his full name. It's a mouthful. Most likely, Hugo is going to play at safety. Of course, that's where we have have some weakness. He was a 4th round, 132 overall pick by the Seahawks in 2019. He's 5'9", 201 pounds. Not real impressive combine numbers. He ran the 40 in 4.51. Not fast for a corner. In fact, as compared to corners that draft, he was 59th percentile. His vertical is only 32.5 inches. That's 15.8%. So barely not even 16th percentile. So he was pretty poor at that. Broad jump, 115 inches. Again, 18th percentile. Shuttle, 4.19 seconds. A little bit better, 48th percentile. Now, if you want to be good, you're in 99th percentile. So this guy is barely even beating half of the other wide receivers. His 3-cone, 7.21 seconds. Other corners. His 3-cone, 7.21 seconds, was 16th percentile. He did, however, start 12 of 47 games played in. while he was at Seattle. He had 1 pick, 2 forced fumbles, 125 tackles. 102 of those were solo, and he did have 6 tackles for a loss. He is versatile, right? And that's, if you've paid attention to some of the guys that we've gotten either by free agency or drafted, they're always guys that can play more than one spot. He played over 550 special team snaps over the last 3 years with the Seahawks. And last year he'd had time playing a nickel corner, a box player, and a deep safety. So he has experience playing more than one position, which we love. We had to cut our team down to 85 as of today at 4 p.m. We took care of it by yesterday. We released offensive lineman William Dunkel. He was an undrafted free agent. We released linebacker Ali Fayyad, another undrafted free agent. We waived wide receiver Lance Lenoir. We waived safety Jared Maiden, and we waived corner Jimmy Moreland. So we're down to the NFL required 85 players on our roster now. Speaking of injuries, let's go to the injury report real quick. We have a little bit to talk about. Nothing serious. We don't get too upset, at least at this point. There's nothing to really get that upset about. Miles Sanders is probably the most concerning injury. He missed practice yesterday because of a hamstring injury. I mentioned that the Eagles labeled it as leg soreness. We're unsure of how severe it is, but he's had issues in the past. In fact, in 2020, he had a hamstring injury on August 19th, so only a few days away. He missed week 1, and that year he was back week 2. So we'll see. Yeah. I guess corner Jimmy Moreland didn't do well. I hadn't heard anything about him from camp, and I don't remember him doing anything impressive in the preseason. So there's your answer, right? And then yesterday, the following players did not practice: Grant Calcaterra for a hamstring, Christian Ellis a hamstring, Marcus Epps from his back, Javon Hargrave a toe. We know Kelsey is getting his elbow cleaned, and Greg Ward with a toe. Nothing real severe. Toes can heal. I had turf toe when I played. It's not the most masculine injury, but it hurts like a bitch. But it goes away. It's something it's nothing that requires surgery or any of that stuff. All right, we talked about roster cuts. Let's talk quickly about some NFL news. So I've said this a couple of times, and I'll keep saying it. Right. So the roster cuts are tiered this year. So as of today at 4 p.m., which is past, of course, everybody had to cut down from 90 to 85. Next week after week 2 of the preseason, August 23rd by 4 o'clock, they have to cut from 85 to 80. And then August 30th, after the last preseason game, they have to make the final cuts from 80 to 53. I like the tiers. I really wish they'd cut him even more, maybe 10 a week. He's struggling. He's not struggling. He's given the coaches, they can't just, we have a lot of tight ends now that are doing well. And Noah is one of them. He's doing very well. And, so that's a position that all of a sudden we have a lot of depth at. We have that guy coming back. I should have written it down. The one who played out last year hurt his back. He's tall. He's lean. We have Goddard. We have Jack Stoll, who did well. We have Noah. So we're doing well at tight end, and this is why this is a great example of right. He's giving the coaches, making them struggle. Right, they have to make difficult choices, and this is why I'm saying Tyree Jackson. There he is. Yeah, Tyree Jackson. He's coming back in the next few days. This is why I say I want more cuts. Right. So in our example, we're stacked at tight end, but there might be teams out there that don't have a good tight end or don't have a good second string tight end. Right. So if we were to have to cut 10. Instead of 5, perhaps we cut one of our tight ends. I don't know who it would be, but perhaps we do. And that means he's out there available for other teams who might not have tight ends. And the same thing works in reverse, right? We might have a weakness, safety, right? For example, maybe there's a team out there that is stacked at safety, and that some of the guys that they cut would be a player on our team. All right, NFL Network. In case you guys are curious about ratings, I'm always interested in things that affect the NFL because, of course, that affects the Eagles, right? The more successful the NFL is, the more money they make, the more people that watch, the better things are going to be. So the NFL Network was the number 1 network on Saturday, this past Saturday, the 13th. They had the top 3 telecast between viewers 18 to 49. And the Seahawks against the Steelers was the NFL Network's most watched preseason game since 2015. All right. Any other comments out here? Anything else you guys want to talk about before we go to the old bald eagle fact? Bald eagle fact. Again, this is one of my favorite parts of the show. I get to talk about Eagles history. I get to talk about teams, beginning from 1933, Pro Bowl players. Yeah, right. I remember that. Yeah. They cut him, hoping he would make it to the practice squad, but the Colts grabbed him. Yeah. If Jock Talk, if I recall, he is a local guy too, right? He's I think he's from up near Allentown, just like Kennedy. Was it Kennedy Brooks? No, Kaiser White's from Emmaus, right? So I think there's some ties to the local area. Okay, so the bald eagle fact. One of the things I do is I talk about Pro Football Hall of Fame inductees that are Eagles, players that lead the Eagles in all-time Eagle receiving yards, all-time Eagle leaders in sacks, things like that. Today I'm going to talk about, and we already talked about it briefly, but 2 inductees to the Eagles Hall of Fame, not the Pro Football Hall of Fame, but the Eagles Hall of Fame. They started their Hall of Fame, I think, in 1987, maybe. And immediately everybody that was in the Pro Football Hall of Fame was, of course, in the Eagles Hall of Fame, and then they've been adding people since. So 2 people that are going to be added this year are Trent Cole and both defensive ends, Trent Cole and Hugh Douglas. That'll happen on November 27th when we have that Sunday night football game at home against the Packers. So Trent Cole, if you're not aware, he was drafted 5th round, 146 overall in the 2005 NFL draft. He was an Eagle for 10 years as a defensive end from 2005 to 2014. Played his whole career with the Eagles, I believe. He started 145 out of 155 games that he played. Playing 155 games is the 3rd all-time against defensive linemen as an Eagle and 14th among all Eagles players in history. He had 85.5 sacks, which is 2nd most in Eagles history. Anybody want to take a guess? It was number 1. If you don't know this, then you're not an Eagles fan. Reggie White crushed it by a significant amount. I think he had over 100. He played 4 seasons. He had 4 seasons with double-digit sacks. That is the 2nd most in Eagles history. Reggie White holds that record as well. I think he had 8. He had 569 tackles. 436 were solo, which is 9th in Eagles history. He had 124 tackles for a loss. 149 QB hits. Now, I don't know how he ranks in tackles for a loss, and QB hits because they didn't track that. They haven't been tracking those stats for long enough. So, like Reggie White, we don't know how many quarterback hits he had, although it probably was a lot. Probably was a lot. Trent Cole was a 2-time Pro Bowler in 2007 and 2009. He was a 2nd-team All-Pro in 2009, and he was part of the 2005 NFL All-Rookie team. So he'll be inducted on November 27th into the Eagles Hall of Fame. We also have Hugh Douglas, another defensive end. He was a first-round 16th overall pick by the Jets in 1995. The Eagles traded for him and got him in 1998. He played 6 years as an Eagle, as a defensive end, 1998 to 2002, and then he came back in 2004. He played 82 games and started in 64 of them. He had 54.5 sacks, which is 4th most in Eagles history. He had 2 seasons with double-digit sacks, 223 tackles, 186 solo, and 59 tackles for a loss. He was a 3-time Pro Bowler, 2000, 2001, and 2002, a first-team All-Pro in 2000, and second-team All-Pro in 2002. Yeah, I agree. Right? I don't know if he won it out, but man, it was Reggie White. Letting him go was, that was a huge mistake. And then when we're talking about Hugh Douglas here, he did return. He did take a year off from the Eagles, 2003. He played in Jacksonville maybe, but he came back in 2004 and helped us get to Super Bowl 39. So those guys will both be inducted into the Eagles Hall of Fame on November 27th. Okay, that's it for the Bald Eagle podcast today. Do me a favor. I'm going to pull up some. Don't go anywhere. Look at check out my screen and look at all the shows that we have on the Philly Sports Alliance. Of course, you're always going to be glued to whatever social media you like to watch me on Wednesdays at 6 p.m. to hear all about the Eagles and only the Eagles, right? But we have a bunch of other shows. On Mondays, we have the Football Smack Talk show at 6 p.m. That is all football. So they I think both Ryan and Eric, who are the hosts, are Eagles fans, but they talk about all the teams in the NFL. Mondays at 7:30, we have the Diamond Club podcast, which is an all Phillies show featuring John Hunter, Chris Lahiff, and Danny Hart. Tuesdays at 6:30, the Philly Broadcast. So this one is all about Philadelphia sports, the four main sports, right? And that is Ryan Reese and Ryan Finneran. Of course, Wednesdays at 6, you're glued to the Bald Eagle podcast, learning everything you need to know about the Eagles. Wednesdays after my show, Mike Sports at 8 p.m. That is a football podcast featuring Eric Ward and Jay Landry. Talk about the whole NFL. Eric is an Eagles fan. Jay Landry, unfortunately, is a Cowgirls fan. But at least you get two opinions. I don't know. I hate to be okay with that, but he's still on Philly Sports Line, so you should watch him anyway. Thursdays at 5:30, Tendies on Pattison. That's an all-flyer show featuring Paul Batcho, Jack Griffin, and Chris Lahiff. And Thursdays at 7, last but not least, we got Tables, Ladders, and Chairs, which features Eric Ward and Mike Rouse. Thank you, Jock Talk. So check out all those guys. Now, of course, you're going to follow all those guys. Everybody on social media, you're going to watch all those shows. But on top of that, we partnered with a couple of people. We also partnered with Six Pack Coverage. They're a national media company located in Tennessee. They have podcasts on everything, not just football. They have podcasts about all sports and not just sports. They have podcasts about fitness, about travel, food, finance, entertainment. I was on a podcast with one of the guys from Six Pack, and he had to get up early to watch one of the Star Wars movies, so he could give you guys a rating and tell you what it was like, if it was good or bad, right? So check out Six Pack Coverage for all those things, and look at Painted Lines. The Painted Lines is also a sports podcast company. They have a bunch of sports podcasts. We're streaming on their YouTube, so check them out as well. All right, thanks for watching the Bald Eagle podcast. Go Birds.